Hey, real quick, before we dive into the show, did you know that Garage Gym Athlete is a lot more than a podcast? Most of you do know that, but if you didn't know, Garage Gym Athlete is first and foremost an amazing online community of supportive athletes. And secondarily, we are the best source of fitness programming on the internet. If you want to be part of the community or the results our programs produce, go to garagegymathlete.com and sign up for a 14-day free trial. If you're already an athlete, invite a friend and help us impact their lives in the best way we can. Hey, we don't run ads on this show, and we are fully supported by the community, so you've got to hear me plug this stuff every once in a while. Thanks for being awesome, and now to the show. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Garage Gym Athlete Podcast. What's up,
How you
Joe?
doing? How you feeling?
It's Red Shirt Day here at work.
It is Red Shirt Monday, so if you don't have a red shirt on,
Red Shirt Monday.
go get a red shirt on.
This is published on Monday and also recorded on a Monday.
Yes.
They don't know. Yeah. Was it same day? Same day recorded? Who knows? 5 weeks in advance. You'll never know.
We never know.
We don't until we make the schedule. All right, Joe, how's life? How you doing? How you holding up as the new father that you are?
Pretty good. Things are getting a little bit better. Back is getting better, training's getting better. I don't want to jinx it, but we may finally have a nanny. She
That'd be
is
huge.
currently here right now watching the kid, whatever his name is.
While you're podcasting. That's perfect.
Yes. So
it's a real test.
So yeah, the first time. So, and then I'm going out of town later this week, and Liz will need the help too. So yeah, I think we may have found one, which is great. It's about dang time, and I'm not gonna know what to do with my time, with my hands. I'm just gonna have so much freedom to work.
I got some ideas.
Yeah.
But so if anyone hears, if it sounds like there's an edit in the podcast or whatever, it's probably because the nanny got so frustrated and Joe is being handed a baby back, and she's saying, "I quit."
Landon will be on his first podcast. This is his first meeting today.
Yeah, he did attend a meeting, which is awesome. Cool, man. That's good. That's really good news. All jokes aside, that's awesome.
Yeah, it'll definitely help a lot. At least, I mean, at the minimum, 2 days a week to have like several hours of uninterrupted work, and then like workouts. Most of my workouts have been chopped in half because like I'll have them out there for a little bit, then I'll put them down, and I'll go back out and finish it. Anyway, I've kind of already talked about that. So workout wise, I've been having some fun on my Saturday workouts. So I haven't done meet your stuff Saturdays, mostly because my back and just because I don't really do meet your stuff Saturdays sometimes. But the workouts that I've been making up, No Gear has its challenges, and I've had some sore days from No Gear, but I think my Saturday workouts that I've been having some fun with have really been another a little bit of another level. And I made up one this past weekend that it's going to show up in Strength Track next cycle. And
are these like meet yourself Saturday level? When you say like a new level, I never really know what that means with you. So I mean,
not quite. No, it's just like No Gear's on a certain level, but then I get to Saturday, and that's like usually my hardest workout of the week, and it's something that I'm just like I write that day. I was like, this one looks like fun. This one looks good.
So it's not like a meet yourself Saturday. It's like a slightly harder Saturday workout.
It's like a super sexy Saturday.
Oh, so it's not even hard. It's just more.
Oh yeah. No, there are intervals on this one.
Okay.
It was like,
all right.
Yeah, it was good. And then later this week, because I'm going out of town, I'm actually going to get some heat in, some hot workouts in, because I mean, Monterey, I don't think it doesn't really get above 70 here, even midsummer.
Stop it.
But I'm going to Western California, and it's triple digits there. So I'll get some heat. But I do plan on going for some runs because I know it's going to be miserable, but I kind of miss those really hot, sweaty days. I want to figure out on my Garmin where the heat acclimation is, and I just want to see that be completely demolished because I'm going from 70 degrees to 100 degrees like overnight.
I feel like it kicks in on its own. I don't know. I don't know that much. Right. I don't know that much about these watches, but when I like just go to elevation, like if I show up in Colorado, I remember I like just got like a random notification that they're like you're 38% acclimated. And I was like, I didn't even know you're tracking it. But I guess they know what elevation you're at and everything else. So I don't know if it'll just let you know or if it's something you need to go check out.
Yeah, I see. Altitude, acclimation. I'll figure it out later. But so that's going on.
No,
So
right
I have
now on the
down.
podcast.
All
Pull out
right,
the book.
guys, we're gonna learn
Let's...
right now. Book? Who uses a book? I just use YouTube.
Does it
I
come
see
with a
these
book?
instruction manuals now. It may have. I see these instruction manuals like, oh, that's cool. Trash. I'll just Google or YouTube whatever I need because somebody out there has done it.
Yeah, fair enough. I don't have a lot update wise.
What's your body battery at right now?
Okay, here we go.
Because
So
we're just
become
rolling it updates, talking wearables. Because you
37.
mentioned, holy crap! Yeah, you mentioned you did not sleep well. You were not lying.
Well, and
Because
I
I'm at
made it
63
to
and I've worked out.
pretty high. I didn't wear my watch for a while today because it was charging. But yeah, I'm at 37. I'll probably today. I'm gonna roll out, bump out probably at a 13, 14 by the end of the day, then hit the sack. Today's one of
Okay.
those days. It's just
Yeah.
it's a busy
You already
one.
trained?
Didn't sleep a whole lot. I haven't trained yet.
Oh wow. Okay. So you might be single digits. We'll see.
Yeah, maybe an 8. We'll see what happens. But today I'm going hard in the paint, if you will. Yeah, I don't
And
have
that
a lot
paint is
updates
red.
wise. I know I probably offended a few carnivore people last week and Whoop users. So sorry, not sorry on any of that. But I didn't have a lot of like what I noticed around the industry this past week. I'm not going to try and make that a recurring theme. I don't always have like these big things I can pull from. Other than I do notice that more people are starting to embrace like the fact that high intensity interval training isn't, or let's just say high intensity training is not the best for you. I'm seeing a lot of stuff on fasting. People's kind of changing their minds on fasting, which we did a study on recently. But especially towards in regards to fasting in females, I feel like that's becoming way more prevalent and known that females do react differently to intermittent fasting than males do. And a lot of times that can be negative in nature. So those are things that I am noticing, but no specific person or anything else. I just like, I pick up little things and here and there from talking to different people in the industry and, people who are normally hardcore on one thing, changing their mind and stuff. But family, life wise, just training in the garage nearly every day. And it's great. That's it. That's all I have life wise. Nothing else cool going on.
Simple, not easy, or simple and not too hard.
Simple, not easy. Let's go with that one. But let's get into the study today. Kind of interesting. The name of the study: an intense warm up does not potentiate performance before or after a single bout of foam rolling. This was done in 2022.
Like
So
spoiler
funny.
alert in the title.
I know, like they love doing that. So the presently reviewed study compared warm up consisting of foam rolling only, foam rolling plus dynamic stretching, where they did the foam rolling first, and dynamic stretching plus foam rolling, where they did foam rolling second, for acute changes in hamstring range of motion, hamstring strength, and counter movement jump height in men and women. Further, the researchers compared the magnitude of change for each outcome measure between the sexes. There are 27 recreationally to well-trained soccer players, 13 women, 14 men completed the study. Most are over 18 years old, but some participants are under 18, which I thought was anytime you're doing anything on like stretching or mobility, like let's get minimum age 30, like minimum. Not, I don't want to know how a
We are not
16 year
easily as
old's
pliable.
doing
Yeah.
with their mobility. So that's already one gripe I had about it. But we can kind of jump to the takeaway, and then we can kind of dive into it a little bit more. But the findings showed that sit and reach performance improved from pre and post warm up in all conditions, but no difference between condition. Strength and jump performance did not significantly change in any condition. Lastly, men increased their hamstring range of motion 7% more than women in the foam rolling first condition. Study shows that combining dynamic stretching with foam rolling fails to acutely improve performance. And that's it. That's all I'm going to say. So they did all this crap. They ultimately said it doesn't really increase your performance, but there was some benefit to doing these things in actually reaching further range of motion. And I've mentioned these things before. Like there's this huge camp. I didn't know it was a camp until I posted something on Instagram, but there's this huge
Oh,
camp
yeah.
that hates stretching. I didn't know that. I was like, I posted something on Instagram, and it was like a study that we'd covered that said like stretching like might reduce injury or something like that. And um, I've never received more hate in both direct message and comments, um, which I find very interesting because I'm not arguing about whether or not you should club a baby seal. You know, I'm I'm saying maybe touch your toes before you squat. I thought it was a good idea. But apparently the research is super split. So I think it's really funny that we have these conversations about foam rolling and stretching. And so when I saw this study, my first thought was, why would you do a study that's looking at whether or not you have increased performance from foam rolling and stretching? Because never once in my brain, my coach's brain, would I think that if you go stretch or do foam rolling, nowhere in my brain do I think you are going to increase your performance either in the training session or future training sessions. That's not even what I'm thinking. So the fact that they're thinking it makes me think that other people are thinking it. And maybe that's an idea we need to eradicate. And so that's the main reason I think, and kind of the approach I want to take to this. Like, if you think that you are foam rolling for increased performance, what are you thinking? But let's dive into it a little bit more. Joe, what did you think about the study? Any interesting tidbits or takeaways?
Yeah, the fact that they were assessing acute performance is like the big thing that was like, why would you like it's just why like why would you think that just getting a little bit loose would make you jump further or and whatnot, and like the fact and like they're going to improve most on sit and reach. Yes, you are literally stretching and mobilizing, so your mobility score should get better. The only thing that I like, foam rolling has its place, everything has its place, but of course you're not going to find a little bit of performance benefit from just getting loose. Like you have to warm up. This is mostly for injury prevention. Now, if you now where I personally use foam rolling is I have to pretty much foam roll every time I do pull-ups, or if I have a whole bunch of pull-ups, because my left shoulder especially, I have some mobility issues and I need it to move properly. So if I'm doing it to move properly, it's kind of performance enhancing because I can actually get the best range of motion and activate my lats, especially on the left side. But that's like a very specific if this, then that. Again, in one of
Because you
those
have to have the problem
scenarios.
first. You have
Yeah.
to have the problem
Yeah.
for that to be a benefit. Yeah.
So it's very specific. It's just general mobility and smashing for if you need to do that. Like if you can't hold a barbell in the front rack position very well unless you smash, then sure, it's performance enhancing because you are able to do the movement properly. Like that's it. Now over time, sure, foam rolling could if you're doing something properly, you're going to get better at it. You're going to get better and stronger in general, but it's not like I don't think of foam rolling as, yeah, I'm going to do this because I need to run faster and I can only run fast if I foam roll my calves kind of thing. I have tendonitis in my Achilles. Also, I do that just for general mobility, so I don't hurt for that. But again, it's injury prevention. It's just general body maintenance. And I think that's just one of those things, good things to have to do time to time for time, or depending on what your specific situation is. But this isn't one of those things where there isn't really a takeaway that you should be doing this, that, and the other before you um, do workouts. It's not like like the glute activation with squats. It's not like one of those benefits that you're like, oh yeah, just add this and you'll be fine. But it's more specific to you. I did like that they use actual athletes instead of just like people that work at a desk all day, and she's like, hey, foam roll, let's see if you can do better, because they might actually have done better if they're just somebody sitting at a
Mm.
desk all day not active, and then you have them foam roll and doing dynamic thing, like, oh yeah, they can jump farther now because they're not stiff as a board from doing nothing.
Yeah. And I think um, that's something that people have to take into account is really like, what is your current work life like? Do you sit at a desk all day? Or are you moving around constantly? And then that really plays into in my opinion, what kind of warm up, foam rolling, stretching, or whatever you should be doing before you hit the gym. Because I do think that the argument kind of that I'm talking about is like around this word stretching. And there's a big, like a lot of, I don't know why, but like I cannot see any reason why scientists are sitting around trying to like disprove stretching as if it's like it's not a detriment. You know what I mean? If there's nothing, you're not doing anything bad. And what I mean by that is like there are some things that supplement wise is like I'm going to ingest large amounts of sodium bicarbonate before I work out, and it's like, yeah, let's research if that's performance enhancing, but also to what detriment. But stretching to me has, other than the time wasted, has no downside to it. And so I don't understand why it comes under attack and why it's this like controversial thing. But I think the word itself, stretching, is what people get hung up on. And so if we change what we say for like, oh, no, don't stretch before you work out, mobilize your tissue. It's like, oh, yeah, well, if you're mobilizing tissue, that's fine, but stretching is not okay. It's like, oh, okay, well, how can we define either one of those things, you know? And so I think that's where people need to understand is like, I honestly believe, I don't care what any science says, that you need to regularly be doing some sort of mobility practice. I could call it stretching even on, for long periods of time. And I think that it will help you reduce your injury risk. I do not in any way, shape, or form think it will increase your performance. Um, Unless the specific circumstances, like you said, Joe, like someone who is completely sedentary and they can't do a broad jump, and then you loosen their hips and they can jump a little bit further, something like that. Maybe in that case. But as an athlete, I don't think it's going to help you. And to be honest, long stretches pre-workout, just try it and you'll find out that it's going to reduce your performance. If anything, you need a little bit of that.
Elasticity.
Yeah, you need a little bit of that elasticity to be able to bounce back from and be explosive. And that's kind of taken away from you, and it takes a long time to recover. So it should be at the end of your workout. Dynamic warm-ups are the best way to go. We've always said that. So it's not like because I'm pro stretching, it doesn't mean I think you should be stretching for long durations before you work out. I think that you should do dynamic stretching before you work out and get your heart rate elevated. And then after you work out, 10 to 15 minutes of, let's call it mobility or long duration held stretches. And I think that's the best thing that people can honestly do. But you're not doing it for performance at any point in time.
Yeah, I think sometimes foam rolling can almost be a cultural. I don't know if a cultural thing, but I always think about when I hear like foam rolling. One of the first things that pop into my mind is
Like
when you
social.
used to go to. Yeah, it's like when you used to go to CrossFit gyms, the foam rolling before the workout is like the water cooler. Like people come in, and then there's like a circle that's always of people just foam rolling. Whether it's some people just sit on one, foam rolling on their butt, rolling on their back. I've gone to some gyms where some people will say that you shouldn't foam roll your back because of X, Y, and Z, and all these things, and it's just like people just start to foam roll just to foam roll because that's just kind of where they are, and it's like cool. It's if you want to kind of smash and work out your sore muscles, but that's the dynamic stretching is what's really gonna actually get you loose and free and whatnot. And unless you specifically have something that you need to smash. So definitely not against foam rolling because I use it and do it all the time, but specific things. It's either I only foam roll my shoulder or my calf for my Achilles because of tendonitis there. And sometimes I'll use it for T-spine mobility.
I use the foam roller when I'm hurt. That's basically, or if something's feeling really tight, I might use a foam roller. To be honest, foam roller is not huge in my arsenal. I do lacrosse ball. You're mentioning like getting into a like good position, like to get in a better overhead position. If I use lacrosse ball on my deltoid specifically, I can get overhead a lot easier and it won't hurt so badly. So that's one thing. I do foam roll lower body from time to time. Like IT band, I think is a really good one. Very painful. Other than that, it's mobility post workout.
Adductors,
Keeps me
yeah.
injury free. So that's what I'm doing.
I think I'm just perpetually hurt. So like there's always there's always some
Nah.
kind of maintenance. There's always some kind of maintenance.
Yeah, and I
Okay, not
think,
hurt, but there's always maintenance to be done.
well, yeah, because I know what hurt is, and I don't. As long as we've
Yeah,
known each
true.
other, I don't think you've been hurt very much. But the The warm up, I do want to just talk about that for a little bit more because I do think warming up is very important. And um, I've also heard a lot of people say like you should be able to walk into things cold and like all that, and that's great. Like, yeah, sure, maybe we should be able to do that, and we should all,
Cheetahs don't warm up.
yeah,
People hear
we
that
should
all the
all
time.
eat all of our vegetables every day and floss 3 times a day and all this crap. But if you're not doing everything perfectly, then maybe we'll warm up, okay? If you're not a cheetah, and yeah, don't get me started down that path because it's like, what's the lifespan of that animal? 11 years? Like I don't it's not comparable. Like we can't compare. Anyway, okay. So anyway, going back to a warm up. It's pretty simple. You do like my favorite warm up most of the time when I just don't feel like thinking about a warm up is just, and I've mentioned it on the podcast several times, is like a mini Murph. And I don't mean like doing the Murph workout, but just like running anywhere from a quarter to a half mile, coming back in the garage, doing a couple rounds of 5, 10, 15 of the pull up, push up, and the squat. To me, that's like the best warm up in the world. Some people that's too aggressive of a warm up. It's like it's too much. Maybe you need to do something else, but it has the ability for you to get warm. Your heart rate gets elevated. You're doing some very like easy movements there, like with a decent amount of volume. I think a minimum of like 3 rounds of the calisthenics there, and you should be pretty warm for almost any activity at that point. That's my favorite go-to warm up. Then from there, because that's if you did like a quarter mile and just 3 rounds, that shouldn't take you very long. You could still have like 5 minutes to go specific to putting a barbell on your back or whatever it is. So I do think warming up is still very important and something you should take into consideration.
Yeah, I made a whole YouTube video on warm ups. I was in front of my whiteboard and had to create like a great, perfect 4-step warm up. If you don't want to start making your own, and and it is dynamic. It'll get you your the right activation going, your heart rate up, and yeah. So uh, check that out if you want to get better being warming up, and then do mobility after you're warmed up.
Yeah. And that's it. That's it for me on the study. Do you have anything else on the study?
No, that's more of just a lot of anecdotal thoughts on foam rolling and
Yeah. Ultimately, they just proved that, just to go back to the study and 100% of the science there, they proved that when you do warming up and foam roll, or not warming up, foam rolling and stretching, no variation of that is going to improve your performance, but it can make you slightly more, let's just say, flexible. That was the takeaway. But at the same time, like I said, the main reason I wanted to bring it up, the main thing I wanted to bring up on the podcast was if you think that foam rolling and stretching are going to increase your performance pre-workout, that should not be a thought in your head. It's not going to happen. There are a lot of other ways, especially when you're talking about truly increasing performance. The only real way to increase your performance is to increase your fitness level. Even supplementation, all these other things, it's like minimal. So train more, perform
do
better.
more.
Yeah, exactly. Train more, do more. Yeah. So
Right
that's
there.
it on this one. But that's a science and kind of the coach's take on it. Yeah. What's up, guys? Did you know that I wrote a book? Kind of crazy that it's out there and I almost never talk about it. The book is called Killing Comfort. And what you may not know is that I just lowered the price of the book to the lowest allowable level on Amazon. And you might be asking, why would I do such a thing? And the answer is because I want to put my money where my mouth is and prove I am here to help as many people as I possibly can. And I won't have the price of the book stand in the way. It's also on Audible if you want to hear me read it, but I can't actually adjust the price there. It's automatically set by Amazon on that platform. Either way, you can go to Amazon or killingcomfort.com and get the book at its lowest possible price. If you like the book, I'd love a positive review and 5-star rating if you see fit on Amazon. Leaving your review is a great way to help us help more people. All right, back to the show. All right, on to the topic for the day, indoor versus outdoor training. And what are some variables you want to think about? I've been doing a lot of both over the last, decade or so or more. And Joe, I know you've done a lot as well. So what are some considerations and thoughts on indoor versus outdoor training? I'll let you start.
Well, first thing to consider is if it's above 50 degrees, I'm all about outdoor training, 100%.
above 50 and below a certain? Is it, or is it just above 50
Well,
and you're
I
good?
mean, I really maxed out my roof for below. So for Bahrain, it was below 120.
Okay. Above 50, below 120. That's a good range.
Yeah, yeah. So I max out higher, but I'm a big baby when it comes to colder.
Yeah.
Um,
50. 50 is good though. 50 is a good
yeah.
temperature.
Um, Intent is the biggest thing that I always think of for indoor versus outdoor. If you think one is superior versus the next, and if you really want to, depending on what you want to do, if you really need to hit a certain thing or have like consistency for one, like if you need to consistently work on your run or certain strength, then taking the weather and that element out of it will help for to drive you toward it. But if you're just training and want to get better and have flexibility and stuff, then I always prefer outdoor training for 100%, and I will do as much outdoor training as I can. But it has been nice. There are times where I will prefer to go indoor for one thing or another. um I know when I would do my, like, if I go to really heavy squats, I will prefer to go to, like, because I have access to the military gyms, I prefer to go to those bigger power racks with actual level platforms and good setup
Mhm.
versus most of what I do. Yeah, I mean, I don't need to, but most of
No,
what I
I'm
do is
laughing
in the
because
garage.
like I always think about the slanted floor in the garage. It's like should be a concern of most athletes. Is like
Yeah,
how much of that like what's the difference between your left foot and your right foot? And under load that gets significantly compounded.
yeah, especially above 90% kind of thing. I'm like that little bit of degree kind of matters. So sometimes if I can, I will go and use that. Um, a a big thing to consider as well is knowing yourself. If being having the weather be a factor is going to deter you from training, then indoor training is probably superior for you, because even though it's good to get outside and push yourself, push your whole hormesis as well. If you're not going to train, then that's like kind of the most important thing. Like, you should still be training, and if it's going to get you to train, then indoor is going to be superior. But and like for the people who live in the frigid north and northwest, or not northwest, Midwest, one of those wests, um, they deal with some ridiculous temperatures and brutalness that I would never be able to deal with. So indoor, yeah, 100%. You like, if you can't grab the barbell, you have to use certain gloves during certain temperatures. Then yeah, indoor. You should be training indoors. I would be.
Yeah, and that I think that what you said about knowing yourself really well, like if a temperature or outdoor atmosphere is going to determine whether or not you train that day, then I think if you're not actively trying to work on pushing yourself to do things you don't want to do, i.e., killing comfort, like then just roll the punches of like whatever is going to make you more consistent. Like my wife is a great example of this. She's very much like you, probably same threshold, maybe 60. Like she trained in the garage today, and it was probably 95 in there, whatever. She has a lot less problem with higher temperatures. Like she'll train, but when it comes wintertime, like if it goes down to like 21 degrees in the garage or something, not happening. Like just not gonna train. She's not gonna like do that in the cold. Luckily in Texas, we don't deal with that much cold, right? Like I would say our threshold, we meet your threshold like 95% of the year, like above 50, below 120. So we're good there. But I was already thinking, because I've kind of realized that over the years, and we have a little bit more space in this house. I was like, I think when next winter rolls around, I'm just going to move probably 3 or 4 pieces of equipment inside, because it's just better for her. I'm not going to like try and be like, hey, you just need to tough it out and like work on your mental toughness. Like you can't tell other people to do that. And so I think if I just move the stuff that she regularly uses, like some dumbbells, her barbell, and like, one of my cardio machines into our house, boom, there you go, problem solved. I'm not gonna try and fix her. Instead, I'm trying to work into like how she operates better, right?
Yeah.
And so I do think that that's a really big thing. Like I do think that there's a certain element to embracing the elements and like, pushing yourself through some of those extremes that can be beneficial, but you have to really know who you are and understand that. I think that's a really big deal. for sure.
Yeah, our spin bike stays inside.
Yeah,
Everything else is
exactly.
outside because in case we need to, in case it does get cold or we just need to be inside for something. And I'm all for training outside, so I'll still get that in, but I probably won't train with in the rain if it's below. I'll still run if it's in the 40s, but like below 40, I probably won't go out and run either, just because that cold lung sucks. Um, I haven't had to deal with that in a very long time, so we'll see what happens when we move.
The only thing I stopped doing when it gets cold is biking, which I haven't been doing much of lately anyway. But if it's 30 degrees outside and you're cycling,
Oh, because the wind,
yeah, it's awful. I
because you're going way
actually
faster.
learned that just the hard way. I wasn't even using my brain. I got really into cycling. The winter came around. I was like, whatever. I didn't even really like dress appropriately. And I went for a ride and I like couldn't feel my hands or my feet because like when you're averaging, whatever or if you just go 30 miles an hour down a hill or like you're averaging 20 or whatever, that gets very cold very fast. So it's something that you need to think about. Um,
Yeah.
I have some other things to consider, like realistically, things that I think about. Um, Air quality. I really think that air quality is something that you should think about at least a little bit. If you're living in like a pretty big city versus a rural area or something, especially during the summer, air quality gets a lot worse in most places, and you really shouldn't be working out at the hottest parts of the day in the middle of summer when the air quality is the worst. Like to be honest, that's kind of when I train, and I probably shouldn't because I live close to Dallas Fort Worth. So not it's a city, but we're kind of far enough away for it to not be as much of a factor. But it is something that you should take into account, like checking air quality, because it's funny. I had this brought to my attention. Just an example. Um, a family member of mine was talking to me, and they were talking about how all their friends they only drink things like in a can, or let's just say like Coke, bottled water, like these kind of things, right? Like they don't most of it's not water though. So they're drinking things that aren't water. So whatever people drink, Coke and all this other crap, all these things that people drink, sodas. And they were talking about how the water that these people consume, even though you have like a soda has water in it, right? But that water is highly filtered. Like these companies filter to a high degree, even like with beer and everything else, they're pretty filtered compared to what you're just drinking out of your tap. Like if you do drink out of your tap without a filter. And I never really had that brought to my attention to me before because I was like, okay, so if you're trying to be healthy and you're like, I'm only going to drink water, but you're drinking it out of the tap, it could be of more detriment to your like health, not from a macronutrient standpoint, but from like a contaminant standpoint, than if you were to just be drinking filtered water, like from the Coca Cola company. And never that was such a reframe for me. I was like, I never thought about that, but you're right. I guess that there's some degree of truth to that. And the same with training outside is like we're working out, we're doing a good thing. It's how could it be bad? That's how it could be bad. You could train at the worst point of the day, at the hottest point of the day, and when it's the most polluted in a urban area, and it can be really bad for your lungs, and it can cause you other problems. So I do think that the air quality is something that you want to take into account. Now you only have two solutions to that problem if you need to. It's you could wear a like a Darth Vader style
Oh
mask.
god.
Not one of those that are made for fitness. I'm talking about an actual like air filter mask, which I haven't even done to this point. So if I haven't done it, no one else is going to do it, or work out indoors, or try to work out early morning. I mean, those are kind of the solutions there. So you can't really do a lot about it, but something to take into account depending on where you live.
Yeah, both of those were actually big factors in Bahrain because the air quality there was pretty bad, like even during the winter. But we were luckily on the outskirts, and I did train first thing in the morning, mostly because of the heat, and that's just when it fit best into my day. And the water is not potable as well, so we had to have a water cooler in our house in order to use water. So yeah, those are yeah valid things to consider as well. Um, I don't know if I have too much on indoor versus outdoor. I didn't think about the air. I mean, temperature is the weather is the main thing that I consider because like we have athletes that like with the cold, but like not just being able to bear the cold, but if the ground's frozen, you shouldn't go out for a run because you just fall and hurt yourself pretty bad.
Yeah, well, teach their own, right? Um, well, so let's go back to temperature then. So I do think that a major benefit of exercise, or one of the major benefits, other than its life-saving potential and all that kind of stuff, is sweating. I think that you should sweat. So if you are working out indoors and for some reason you're not breaking a sweat, just try the occasional outdoor workout. Let's go outside and let's sweat a little bit. So all these things are a balance, right? Like I don't worry about any of these things that much in any direction. I'm just trying to bring the ideas to everyone's attention because, like I said, I'm probably working out in a fairly polluted area at the worst part of the day. I'm probably not the best for my respiratory health. I don't know. Maybe I'll fix it at some point, but it's whatever. But I do think you should sweat. I do think that you should expose yourself to the elements. There's the vitamin D aspect that I think that you should be looking at because when it gets really hot, like a few weeks ago when it was crazy hot here, because I can take 100 all day. When it gets past 110, it's stupid. I start saying that it's stupid often, and I feel like it's stupid. But the
Yeah.
funny thing is, like, if I were to track my outdoor time on days like that, um, and I wouldn't count my garage time because I'm not actually like I'm not outside. You know what I mean? I'm like outside. It's probably like a few minutes. You know what I mean? Like a few minutes of like direct sunlight and everything else just because of how uncomfortable it is. And so I think that that's something that you need to focus on, making sure that you're getting enough outdoor time, for lack of a better word. Like makes us sound like animals, right? But you need that.
I mean, you should definitely go out and do some walks and get in the sunshine. But I'd argue that if you're working out in your garage, you're dealing with the elements. It's kind of outdoors. Like you're dealing with outdoor elements because it's still cold or hot and uncomfortable. But like you need to get actually outside in the sunshine and go for a walk. We
Yeah, that's
regularly
what
go
I'm
for
saying. You're
walks no
just
matter
not
what
getting
it
the
is.
you're not getting the sun if you're like
Yeah.
actually in the garage, like not walking outside. And I actually try to take that into account, like if I'm doing a kettlebell swing inside and there are like longer rest periods between, like I'll go outside, like walk outside of the garage, try and get the sun on my body, things like that, just to try to factor in those some things. But
Yeah.
if we're just going straight to my opinion, I hate indoor training with a passion. Can't stand it. Anything with training in an air conditioner, I just can't. I hate it. I hate every part of it. I hate how long it takes me to start sweating. I hate the comfortable temperatures that global gyms are at. Um, Personally, I can't stand any of it. I prefer to be outside training, and I think I always will. Um, but at least I gave you some things to think about if you're not me. If you
I mean,
had to pick one.
it's basically Monterey. It's in the 60s every day. So it's super comfortable and super nice. However, I did get the assault bike that I did from Fringe, their assault bike, the
Mm-hmm.
Raptor. I got that because it has turf tires so that I can wheel it out of my garage into because our garage is faces behind our house and there's nothing back there but parking spaces. So I can wheel it out to one of the parking spaces and I will do my airdyne in the sun outside. So I can wheel it out there. So at least a little bit here and there. So I really, if I were to go on base to the indoor gym, it would be warmer inside to train than it would be in my garage in the summer.
Mm.
But I do prefer, I mean, obviously, I do prefer my own garage, my own setup. It's more of the people and just dealing with other things that I don't really care for than indoor versus outdoor. The convenience.
Yeah, dude,
Because,
I'm so far removed from a gym. I'm trying to think of the last time I went. It's been a long time since I've
yeah,
because even when I travel, I don't go to a gym. Like I won't even go to a hotel gym anymore. It's like
yeah.
I'm not like, opposed to it. I just don't stay in hotels very often. First off, like Emily really likes Airbnbs for most of the time, so that's what we're doing. So I'm rarely in a hotel gym when I travel, and so I'm always just doing calisthenics and running and things like that. So I'm always outside. I haven't trained indoors probably in 5 years.
I mean, every time I think about like dream gym, like if I were to build a house, like and build my own garage and stuff, definitely going to be a garage with big giant roll up doors so that I can, and with an overhang so that I can pull stuff outside, so that I can do things outside and still like have it under shade because I just prefer that so much more.
Dude, you're telling me. There have been some houses that have come on the market recently that have the most amazing like outdoor potential for like a gym setup. Like because where I live, there are like a lot of like old farmers and like horse properties and stuff like that.
Hmm.
I mean, they were legitimately trying to like raise horses and sell them and ride them, like whatever you do with horses. And I'm like, oh wow, that 5,000 square foot barn you have would be a great gym. Like that's the the only thing I'm interested in. But the house is trash normally because they're like these old farmhouses that haven't been updated since like whatever the year they were built, like 1951. And Emily's like,
Hmm.
Are you kidding?" And I was like, "Yeah, but the gym option, like, just think about that." I can never convince her though. So
I mean, it's so much. It'd probably be easier to just find a decent house and then just build a barn because
yeah,
you're gonna have
barn
to probably
dominium.
insulate it anyway. Yeah, that's the life right there, barn dominium. Because you just build the awesome house and then they have giant garages that come with it anyway, and you can usually get ones that are super tall and carve out a corner or a loft for the office.
Yeah, there's a guy building a barn dominium a couple miles from me, and then he abandoned the project halfway through and then put it on the market. So if you're looking, Joe.
I
No,
think
I
you're
can't. I
looking.
can't convince Emily to live in a barn dominium. But if you can, I'm all about it. But yeah, maybe that's the ranch. That's the ranch. That's the garage gym
GGA
athlete ranch.
Ranch.
Yeah,
Just gonna start a GoFundMe so we can have one.
yeah. I'll tell you the what that was listed for later. Um,
Yeah.
all right. Well, that's our thoughts on indoor versus outdoor training. Want to get to the meet yourself Saturday?
Yeah. And everybody tell us what you think about indoor versus outdoor training, on the YouTubes and other places, wherever you can. All right. So workout is perpetual motion. And I think I always forget about this workout, and it always takes me by surprise because it's not like a big name one that people talk about, or it comes up as much. But I think is one of the older ones. So this workout will be done continuous and back to back. You would do 7 minutes in wrap wall climbs. So wall climbs are not fun. 3 minutes AMRAP burpees, 5 minute rest, 7 minute AMRAP as many reps as possible. Push ups, 7 minutes of push ups, 3 minutes double unders, 5 minutes of rest, 7 minutes of sit ups, and then 3 minutes of thrusters. And that's just an empty barbell for thruster. So a lot of these are going to be high heart rate things. The wall climbs are going to be both muscle fatigue and heart rate because they can just suck. Burpees are
Seven
burpees.
minutes
Push ups
wall
will
climbs the
be,
worst.
yeah. Uh, 7 minutes of push ups basically just going to be muscle fatigue. Double unders, you're just, yeah, heart rate. Sit ups or sit ups. And then thrusters will, nice finale for 3 minutes, especially with the empty barbell. You can do those for however long you can breathe.
Yeah. And so let me expound on the perpetual motion name. And Joe mentioned it, but continuous movement is the point of this workout. Um, and so what you're supposed to find here is like the 3 minutes of burpees is not supposed to be, okay, I did 20 burpees real fast. I got tired. And now I have my hands on my knees. I'm going to sit here and rest for a minute. The point of every single one of those time durations with the exercise is to find a sustainable pace that you can hold the entire time without having to stop, even if that means a really slow paced burpee. But you're supposed to maintain continuous movement. And I think that is a very beneficial thing for people to learn when you are just in training, but you do have mixed modality training involved. So when we are doing a bunch of different exercises back to back, uh, learning pacing for those, that way you're not just doing a bunch, burning out, resting when you're not really supposed to be resting because there wasn't designated or programmed rest when you're resting. You're just resting because you're tired, and you inappropriately judge how fast you should be going. So this helps pacing with things that aren't monostructural. So monostructural being like running, rowing, any kind of erg, whatever. Those things people learn to pace themselves on pretty well most of the time. You figure that out. If I'm like, okay, we're gonna be going for a mile, you know what the pace is for you to hold that for that entire mile. But if I say do 7 minutes of double unders or burpees or whatever, like, or you're just not going to really know what that is. Now, I will say you're probably going to hit muscle fatigue on some of these. Like, you most likely can't just do 7 minutes of push-ups without hitting muscle failure. But still, it should be very freaking challenging. Like, everyone should get to muscle failure somewhere. And it shouldn't be, okay, well, it's 7 minutes. I'm going to do 10 minutes of push-ups real fast. And then I'm going to rest for 30 seconds and do 10 more. That's, again, don't try and game it yourself. Do really slow push-ups, rest a little bit at the top if you need to, in the top of the position, because technically that movement's still going if you haven't gone into full rest, and then go back down. And so this is what I'm trying to help athletes learn in programming and creating the workout. And I think that needs to be known when you go into it, or otherwise the workout can be done very differently than most people would typically execute it.
Yeah, this is one where the CrossFit mentality will have your head run into a wall and you will not execute it properly. Wall climbs, especially, you're gonna, in the first minute you might get 6, 7, 8, and then by the minute 3 you might get 2 because there's a pretty quick drop off for those. So going through those methodically will help a lot. And it reminds me of, I think Luis, one of our members, posted a week or so ago that he was a big CrossFitter, has been doing our training for a while, and he tried out a CrossFit workout that he used to do, and said that he was able to, like in the past, he would go out hot and then hit a wall and then just be sucking wind and had to stop. But then he, after doing the training, learned how to kind of pace himself, but in a continuous manner, so that when he did the workout, it was continuous motion the entire time, and then like completely crushed it, even though he kept on moving the entire time. So um, definitely it's something that you need to learn about yourself and how you work out. But this one is pretty rough in that regard. And yeah, I think you hit on a lot of them, for just to be conscious of being able to keep moving, which can be kind of the hardest thing. And the strength track is kind of going through that right now, because we have some 10 rounds or 30 minutes. So like 10 rounds of any kind of superset. It's not a circuit, but continually moving through some of those after a while, because are some strength movements. There are some things that get your heart rate up. And after 5 or 6 rounds, you might just be really, really hurting and sucking wind if you're tried to go a little bit too hard at first, but instead of staying somewhat consistent.
Yeah, it's a really hard thing to learn. I think when I did see people do CrossFit, when I was kind of more into that stuff, in a galaxy far, far away, a long, long time ago, I actually always found that confusing. That's Star Wars, right, Joe? Or is that Harry Potter? I,
Mm,
I'm just kidding.
I
It
think it's
was
Galaxy
good.
Quest. Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, we haven't had a good poke at fiction in a while. That was,
Yeah.
but anyway, I do think that was my biggest like question I would have when I would see people execute when I was new to CrossFit, is like there could be a relatively short workout programmed, and people would do that. They would this high intensity mentality gets people all revved up, and so they just go as hard as they can, but then they burn out in like 34 seconds, and then they have to take a break for a minute and a half before they can get back on the barbell or back on whatever they're supposed to be doing. And I didn't even understand that, kind of back then. I was like, what are we doing? Like, why would you do that? You needs to be more sustainable. Like, do the work at a sustainable pace. And I think that's the biggest takeaway, because that's, even if you're getting better at CrossFit, that's all they're able to do. The elite competitors, is they're able to sustain some sort of pace. It's just way above the average person. And so I think that's this will, if you do it properly, you will meet yourself. So you're right. It's not like a big name, What the Ruck or like Iron Mile, one of those, but there's a lot that you can learn from this one. Very similar to the breathing ladders that we talked about. Like, there's a lot you can learn about you, arousal control, breathing. This one is more pacing. And so some of these are meet yourself in an educational format. Like, how does my body operate when I'm trying to maintain continuous movement? What starts to fail? Because what I've also learned, I learned this in my time in the military. Like, whenever you think that you're done, you're like probably pretty far from done, as far as like how many push-ups you can do, how long you can hold that plank. I'd say plank is probably the best mental test out there. And I say that with a person who hates planks too. Like I get into it. My brother and I were like finishing a workout within the last couple weeks, and there's like 2 minutes of planks or something like that. And I was like, well, I'm just gonna hold it for the full 2 minutes, like whatever. And I remember that being annoying for me. It wasn't just, I was like, this kind of sucks. And I was like, planks are so funny. That was the second thought. I was like, planks are always like this. Doesn't matter if it's like 1 minute or 2 minutes. It's like your body knows what the threshold of time is. It could have been a 14-minute plank. And I probably wouldn't have started complaining about it until I was like minute 10. You know what I mean? Of like, but it's like, it's 2 minutes. I'm a minute and a half in. I'm like, this sucks. So anyway, plank is a big one on like teaching you that stuff, like helping you learn, because you can hold a plank for so long. Like so long. Whenever you no, like, but when you quit a plank, I ask yourself, why did you quit the plank? And was it because you actually reached so much muscle failure that your hips were touching the ground no matter what you were trying to do? You're like, that's almost never the case. People normally go from completely rigid to just being like, and that's good, because you should like keep really good form in the plank and everything. But normally it's just a mental annoyance that makes us quit a plank. And I think that's the same with all these exercises you'll learn when you do perpetual motion, is you're slowing down, you're quitting because it's uncomfortable, not because there's any real, I need to stop doing this.
Yeah. One thing to help, at least with these, is that you only have to go through it once. So when you're hating wall climbs and it's 5 minutes down, you have 2 minutes left, just think, well, after these 2 minutes, I'm done with this. I'm done with wall climbs till whenever it comes up again, but I'm done with it today. And maybe that'll help.
That's a great way to frame it. Perfect. We should end on that.
Okay.
Well, do you have anything else? I'm good.
No, not for perpetual motion.
Okay. Well, rounding out the show today, I kind of like to save it till the end to kind of update people. We're just working on a lot of stuff behind the scenes. You'll see some new stuff as we transition our newsletter, which is called 5-Line Friday, kind of coming out in a new format. New things are going to be offered there and talked about. So we would love feedback on any changes we do make. So if you see any of those changes, definitely provide us feedback, either reply to the emails that you get or let us know in the Facebook group. This is primarily for athletes who are getting this information. Because everything that we do, in all honesty, is really just an attempt to improve what we do and make a better experience for all of our athletes. Like one of the things that we're doing, if you've been to our merchandise store, we're doing a shirt of the month. And then, we allow that shirt to be purchased for about a month, and then we take it away, and just kind of keeping those things going, adding new designs, that kind of stuff. It's all kind of experimentation just to get you guys more involved. So really, if you just pay attention to all the things that we are doing, it's really easy to get more plugged into community and what we are doing. And yeah, as far as the podcast goes, I've been talking about this a lot more lately. Just share the podcast is my only ask. I know that we do promote our own stuff, our programming primarily, right? Like we do have something to sell, but we also want to help a lot of people in the process of what we're doing. And I think you should be able to see that with everything that we put out and how we put it out, and decisions we made about, like, the Killing Comfort book is a great one. Like, there's actually zero profit generated from the book at this point, Killing Comfort. And I mentioned that it's been in the podcast the last 2 weeks, but that's really out there to try and get the book in more people's hands, as opposed to trying to squeeze every dime out of the book that we can. It's more like, let's get this to as many people as we can. And again, it's experiment. A lot of the stuff we're doing is experimental. But we'd love your feedback on anything that we do, because we do, really enjoy the community, and we think you guys are awesome. So that's the big thing. Share the podcast, give us feedback when we're trying new things, and let us know what you think, because we really do care about the community and what you guys think. We'd never want to change anything that people didn't like, but we're always going to be experimenting with making the business better, the programming better, ourselves better, and all that. And for anybody listening who wants to sign up, wants to be a part of Garage Gym Athlete, you can go to garagegymathlete.com and you can sign up for a 14-day free trial. And the trial, which eventually turns into a membership, is what keeps the podcast going, keeps the podcast going, keeps programming going, keeps everything going. And that's why we don't take on sponsors, because we are community sponsored already. So it is each one of you who sponsor what we do. And that is our preference, as opposed to ever having to take on any kind of sponsor or anything like that. And so we do appreciate you guys who are making the community awesome. If you want to experiment with us, you're new here, go ahead and go sign up for that 14-day free trial. We would love to have you, and you can check out the programming, interact with the community. But that's it, guys. Remember, if you don't kill comfort, comfort will kill you. Athlete Podcast. If you want to learn more, go to garagegymathlete.com. You can learn about our training. Let us send you a copy of our book, The Garage Gym Athlete, or you can even get featured on the Garage Gym Athlete podcast. Thanks for listening.